are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, and thank you for attending our Lunch and Learn webinar today. My name's Darryl McAllister and I'll be your host. This webinar is being recorded and will be available later for you to listen to again or to forward on to a colleague. Please note we've muted all attendees at this point. If you've got any questions during the webinar, just type them into the GoToWebinar questions box and click the send button. In the interests of time management, all questions will be answered at the end, but feel free to enter them at any time. Our aim is to give you peace of mind that if a disastrous event does occur, then the one thing you can count on is that your data will be fully and quickly recoverable. Today's webinar is in 3 parts. I'm going to start by updating you on what we at NetCare feel is the best backup strategy for your servers. We're joined on this webinar today by Fatty Wardy. Fatty is our account manager at StorageCraft, one of the leading backup solution providers in the world. And Fatty will be showing us some of the main features of the solutions we are offering to our clients in the area of disaster resistance. Fatty, all okay your end?
Yep, I can hear you fine and over here.
Good.
Hello everybody.
Good. Following the demo, we'll have a quick update on the disaster resistance solutions available from NetCare. And we'll finish with any questions from the audience. Let's start with 2 simple recovery questions. Question number 1 is, what is your recovery point objective, your RPO? How many hours of data are you and your staff okay to rekey? I would guess that historically our clients would say 1 day is okay. But these days, with the speed of business, I suspect it's more like an hour or 2, or even less if possible. And the second question is, what is your recovery time objective, your RTO? When a server goes down, how quickly do you want it restored to full production? Once again, historically, I'd guess the answer was 1 day, maybe 2. But nowadays, the answer is more like 4 hours or even less. So, with these changing business requirements, NetCare have reviewed the backup and recovery solutions we're providing to our clients. And that has meant a recent change in our recommended strategy. We still recommend a 2-step process. Step number 1 is protecting against critical hardware or software failure or against human error by backing up every 15 minutes throughout the day to a network storage unit, a NAS drive, or preferably an on-site backup server if the budget allows. And then step 2, protecting against a disaster event like theft or fire by backing up from the on-site drive to an external source, either across the internet to a physically separate location or to portable hard drives that are then manually taken off-site daily. The big change here is we are now recommending a software solution that provides continuous incremental backups during the working day rather than doing both steps overnight. Note that this means we need a solution that is able to back up files even when they're open and without impacting on network performance. Okay, I'll now pass over to Fatty to demonstrate how the range of StorageCraft products achieves these updated business objectives. Just swapping over. We can see your screen now, Fatty.
Yeah, you can see my screen now. Excellent. Welcome everybody. I will just go through, as Darryl mentioned, a couple of the features that Shadow Protect offer to be able to help you guys meet your goals in terms of what you want to achieve out of a disaster recovery and backup solution. One of the first things that Darryl mentioned there was the ability to recover more often throughout the day and provide you guys with more recovery points, more granularity to be able to restore from. One of the major features of Shadow Protect is that we're a sector-based technology which allows us to back up only the changes that occur throughout the day. So if you have a total size of, let's say, 500 gigs on your server, we would only back that up once ever, and then continue to back up the changes that occur to that server from now on. So you can see here on my screen, I've got the scheduling options available. I've done a 24-hour schedule here Monday to Friday, going from 6 a.m. to 5:45 a.m. with an interval of 15 minutes. I can make that as little or as large as small as I'd like to, but as little as every 15 minutes means that we can take up to 96 backups every day with little or no impact to your network or your servers or your users. I'll demonstrate that in just a second as well. So you can see here that I've got a chain here that I've just created this morning. We've set it to back up every 15 minutes. Now, what I'm going to do here is I will actually just run an incremental backup here to simulate no changes made to our network since the last backup run. And that should only take a brief few seconds to complete that incremental backup with no changes made to my network. What I'm going to do following this incremental backup is then I'm going to add some data onto my C drive there, which I'm currently backing up. So as you see here, that was a 23-second backup with no added storage to my C drive here, and you can see it's only a 521 kilobyte backup image, so very, very small. If I were to go in here and to simulate, maybe an hour's worth of data change or even a day, I'm going to just examine this file to give you a look at what I'm moving across here. So you can see here that it's a 141 megabyte folder, I should say, and actually contains up to 18,000, over 18,000 individual files within this folder. So what I'm going to do is copy this and actually move it across into my C drive here. And this basically simulates the data change that could go on in any given incremental period of time. What I'm going to do following this data change here is I'm going to do a third incremental, a fourth now actually, and see how our backup of StorageCraft software handles this change. And pretty much you'll be able to quickly see that any given change to the network is backed up very, very quickly with no impact to your network or users. And we'll just let that finalize there. Okay, so we added some data onto our drive. What I'm going to do is execute another incremental image here. Okay, we'll just let that tick across, but it should be about a 30-second to 40-second image. We'll just let that finalize there. What we're demonstrating here is the ability to be able to back up as often as you like without any change to your network or users. And you can see here, if I go back to my backup folder, that since the last backup we did here, we added some change, and it's now reflected that change on this backup image. You can see here quite a low impact solution. Now that we've created a little backup chain here, what I wanted to actually show you as well is some of the recovery features that are available for you guys to use. I'll give you a couple of use cases that we generally run into when it comes to restoring. Now, let's say, for example, one of your users has deleted or lost a document that they're working on. Very, very simple and easy to recover that document. We'll just simply go back to a point in time when we know that document existed. We'll right-click on any one of our images here, and we'll select the second option down, which is Quick Mount. Now, what it's doing here is loading this image and every single image before it as a read-only volume. You can see here it's brought up, it's assigned this read-only volume the next available drive letter, which is E in this case. And we can now browse through our C drive and drag and drop whatever we like, or select and save as wherever we like. Once we are done recovering our file, we simply quickly dismount this read-only volume and it disappears. So that's showing you how basically how you can recover a file folder in under 10 seconds just by quick mounting any one of your Shadow Protect images. Very, very simple. Now onto the second use case where you can also use one of our recovery features to greatly improve your restore time. Now, should we have a server crash, let's say one of our servers crashes right now, which is at 12:41 p.m. Generally speaking, in most cases you're looking at a 3 to 4 day turnaround time before you're able to actually restore that server back up to full production. With Shadow Protect, all you need to do is go back to your most recent image, right-click that image, and hit Virtual Boot. It's going to give you a little wizard that you can run through here. You're able to assign your temporary virtual machine a name and give it some RAM, depending on how great the performance you want it to run at. And we'll finish that. What it's doing here is a hardware-independent restore. Again, taking the image that we selected here and every single one in the base for it, and loading it up as a temporary virtual machine that will be hosted on our image repository device, wherever we're storing our images. So that's basically, in a couple of seconds, you'll see our virtual machine be upstanding. We're able to then use this as a temporary virtual machine while that takes us 2 to 5 days to basically reorder a new server, restore that server with our original data, and then rebuild it all and connect it back up to our network. That is basically stands up your server in a matter of minutes, allows you to remain productive within your business while you can then take your time to do an enterprise restore for your new hardware. You can see here our machine has popped up there. It's taken us about a minute to virtual boot this 20 gig odd server here, and a couple of tweaks in the back end, and our users are back up operational. Okay, and so I'll just close out of this now that you've seen the Windows login screen about to pop up. Now this basically takes care of the first part of what Darryl mentioned there, the step one, which is doing local backups, having local restore functionality so that should one server go down, you're able to become operational in a very short amount of time, as well as being able to recover files from your multiple recovery points throughout the day. Now, you could probably get the idea that if you're doing, let's say...
Sorry, can I just interrupt then? Can I just interrupt, Paddy? A really important thing for our listeners to so that functionality that you just showed there, the thing that I'd really like to emphasize is that something that we can do on behalf of our clients in that situation without having to get in the car and drive out to the client site. We can do all of that work remotely.
Absolutely.
So sorry to interrupt. Feel free to carry on.
No, not at all. No, thank you. Okay, so now that we've established our local backups, I will take you through this software here, which is called Image Manager. Now, Image Manager is basically a complementary software to Shadow Protect. It is a free software which allows you to manage the chain that you've created with Shadow Protect, and also allows you to do some very important things like verification. So it will actually allow you to verify every single image that you're creating to make sure it was taken in a clean way and make sure that image is not corrupted for whatever reason. And then once you've created a schedule, you can now start to do retention settings to actually lower the amount of individual recovery points you have by, instead of having 10 a day, you set a time in place where you can then consolidate those images up to a single file and after a certain amount of time, and then into a weekly file and then again into a monthly. What this does is allows you to reduce your disk space that you're using to actually store the images, and allows you to maintain an environment of backups that you actually need, rather than having a whole bunch of backups that are irrelevant. And this brings me on to the I guess step 2 of what Darryl was talking about in his first session there, which is then once you have your first or your primary location set up with backups, you then want to have the option to distribute or replicate those backups across to a second site, so that if site 1 were to fail for whatever reason, you do have a second copy of your data and your assets somewhere else. So there are a couple of options here to actually send your data across to a second location, and depending on your internet connection, you would choose either one of the intelligent FTP options or shadow stream options to then automate that replication and yeah, have your data set across in 2 locations. Okay, and that pretty much covers off what I had to show you guys today. Thank you all for your time and your attention, and over to you, Darryl.
Thank you. If you can just change the screens back.
I will, yes.
Or I can do that actually, I think. Yeah, I'll do it. Okay, well, Fatty, thanks for that. What we're trying to do there today is not just talk about it, but show you the product as well, so I hope you all found that useful. Okay, I'd like to talk now about the NetCare solutions that are available for disaster resistance. We believe NetCare Cloud Backup is the absolute best backup option. This option is fully automated. There's no human requirement to change media every day ever again, and your data is backed up across the internet to our NetCare storage server here at Norwest. It obviously works best when there is a high-speed internet plan in place, but for clients with modest server storage requirements, backing up across the internet using an ADSL2 plan is still viable using this software. Our second best option is NetCare on-site backup. We still take backup snapshots of your servers every 15 minutes, but for the second step, instead of backing up across the internet, we back up to a series of external drives every night. These drives are then swapped out every day by a trustworthy employee who also takes responsibility for taking the external disk media off-site, just like they may well be doing now. Next, I'd like to briefly introduce NetCare Max. NetCare Max is a standard feature of NetCare Cloud Backup and an add-on feature for NetCare On-Site Backup. In simple terms, it maximizes your recovery time to a replacement server by providing you immediate access to our range of production-grade HP servers on an interim basis. These servers are stored at our Norwest location as cold spares and are available for immediate deployment to your site in the event one or more of your servers are not usable for an extended time. This is likely to be most useful for clients that have a larger number of staff who become essentially idle if there is no server available. Now, pricing. The good news is that NetCare On-Site Backup is a standard inclusion with all our NetCare monthly plans, including all monitoring, configuration changes, and software upgrades. NetCare Cloud Backup, including the NetCare Max service, has a standard fee of $300 per month per server, regardless of your server disk capacity. This equates to only $10 per day for no human intervention. And NetCare Max, used in conjunction with NetCare On-Site Backup, is $80 per server per month. Now that's a very quick summary of your disaster resistance options from NetCare. We'd be very happy to discuss your specific requirements with you on an individual basis following the webinar. Okay, I'd now like to open the webinar up for any questions, and I'm pleased to say that a few have come through during the course of this presentation. So we might share the answering of these, Fatty?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is an additional license required to allow virtual boot
The answer is no. So virtual boot and quick mount, the two recovery features that I showed you for your local recovery, local backups, they're all as standard features of Shadow Protect. So no extra licenses required there.
Okay, good. The next one is, can I use cloud backup to back up to my second office? I might answer.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I might answer that one. So the answer is absolutely, but there is a but. So let me take you through that scenario because it is a good question, and there's something just need to be aware of the implications. So it's absolutely an option if you've got an office in Melbourne to back up across your internal network from one server to your server in Melbourne. And that'll reduce that $300 fee because we're not incurring charges our end, so we could certainly talk to you about that. However, there is something you need to be aware of, and that is the fact that if we need to do a restore from that off-site location, the advantage of backing up to our data center is that we're here in Sydney also. So the most likely scenario in a disaster situation is that we'll actually start working on your NetCare Max box here at our location, where of course our data is as well. So it will really quickly, radically increase our speed that we can get your server back up and running again if it's actually at the same location as the NetCare Max server rather than a different geographical situation. So maybe that's a bit of a long answer, but it's certainly an option that we can talk through with clients that have got sites in different locations. If those locations are in the same, both in Sydney, then yeah, perhaps that's also a scenario that can work really well. Next question is, what's the advantage of having a server for backup? So maybe, Fatty, you could answer that one. I think that might be referring to server versus NAS.
Sure thing. So I guess part of the consideration or a factor that you do need to consider when you are choosing an image repository or a storage device for your backups is, what you actually want out of that device. So do you want it to just hold images as storage, or do you want to be able to use that device as a temporary disaster recovery appliance should you need to fault over to that device in the event of a server crash? We always recommend a physical server. That is the most ideal because it can act as a temporary host machine for your virtual servers using virtual boot. And you might have a couple of servers, and you may need that grunt to be able to to hold that those virtual machines for an extended period of time while you've restored, reordered new servers. So that's generally why we recommend a server. But again, other alternatives are available. Like if you are using a NAS and you can't actually run a virtual machine off a NAS, but should you have a disaster, potentially NetCare could assist you in that way by supporting you with a device that they can loan you perhaps, and use that as a temporary disaster recovery appliance for the duration that you are without a server.
Which is the NetCare Max plan. So just to build on that just a little more, for those clients that we're installing new servers into a multi-server environment, we now as a default set them all up as machines that are capable of being virtualized. So for those clients that have got more than one server at the one location, then we'd certainly be looking to make use of that server, of the second server, or perhaps the servers, if there's sufficient storage there to be able to support each other in the event of one going down. Couple more questions. Are the backups compressed? If so, what's the average compression rate of the backups? That one might test you, Fatty. How good's your technical facts?
That's a very good question. Yeah, sure. So we do have a standard compression on all our images. It's about 60% standard compression. Now that can be tweaked if you do need more, but in all honesty, we find the best way is to leave it as standard compression, because when you do turn it up, it does tend to add a little bit of time to the backup, whilst giving you some compression advantage. Yeah, so I guess the best way to answer that is yes, we do 60% compression, and you can clean up your disk space even further using Image Manager to consolidate your files if that's something of concern as well.
And perhaps a follow-on question to that is security as well. Is there security as part of the backup?
Absolutely. I didn't show you that part, but yes, you can actually encrypt your backup chain up to 256-bit encryption. So yeah, very complex algorithm there. Be able to add that in as you like.
Great. Now there's one more question here. If there's any more, feel free to type them in now. Would you recommend still using outside storage of USB backup tapes?
Well, personally, I guess I see that there's a space or a spot for tapes in today's business world, but generally speaking, we don't recommend tapes. We feel like they're outdated technology, and from a restore perspective, we're all about recovery. So from a recovery perspective, tapes are notorious for being very quite difficult to restore from. Not knowing whether you can or can't restore at any given time. They're just a nightmare to deal with for restore purposes. So I mean, if you do have a specific requirement, as in compliance or something like that requirement, which mandates you do have to have a record of data, for example, for a certain amount of time, where you are looking at tapes to do that, then you do need to incorporate it. But if you don't have any of that, then look, I don't see why you'd be looking to tapes. We don't support tapes as standard. But if you do have that requirement, we can use a third-party solution to actually move our images to a tape-based product for archival.
I think that question could actually equally apply to the word USB backup hard drives as well, and I think what you said largely still stands. I think the important difference is that we're talking mainly here today about backup and recovery. And I suspect that question might be more about an archiving strategy, which really is a related topic, but not specifically what we're covering off here. But a very simple answer to that is that it's absolutely possible to have a third step in the process using the same software, essentially for the same price, that could do a full backup or full image backup of your servers every day to a separate hard drive solution again, and having those being taken off-site by a professional service, perhaps once a week or once a month or something like that, principally for an archiving strategy rather than a backup strategy. Okay, I think that's all the questions. So it's also right on the half hour, or just 1 or 2 minutes shy. So thank you everyone for your attendance today, and I trust you felt it was a valuable use of your time. As I said at the start, our aim in providing with a backup solution based on StorageCraft is to give you peace of mind that if a disastrous event does occur, then the one thing you can count on is that your data will be quickly and fully recoverable. If you'd like to find out more about any of the solutions we talked about today, please phone us on Sydney 91149920, or send an email to info@netcare.net.au. So thank you again for attending. Feel free to exit this webinar now. As you exit the webinar, there's a survey response that will flash up, and we'd certainly appreciate it if you could take an extra 30 seconds or so to complete that survey response for us. I'm going to stop the recording button now. Fatty and I will stay online for a few more minutes in case anyone else has more questions they'd like to ask. Enjoy the rest of your day.